Welcome to Studio King Street. My name is Neil Munday, and I'm here to interview another guest today on the Stirling Business Podcast. I'm delighted that we have Stuart Jones, the Managing Director of First Rail Open Access, with us today to talk about the new Lumo service that is coming in the spring. So welcome to Stirling today, Stuart.
Brilliant. Thanks, Neil.
I'm assuming you got here by train?
I certainly did. I actually came up via Glasgow.
Oh, Glasgow. Okay. So how often do you spend in Scotland?
So it's getting more and more as we get closer to launching a new service here, but certainly at least once every 4 weeks.
Okay, that's great. So tell the audience a little bit about First Rail Open Access. What is it? And then we'll get more specifically into what that means to Stirling.
Absolutely. So First Rail Open Access looks after a couple of different open access operations. Firstly, an open access operation is where the operator takes on full revenue risk and full cost risk. The upside is actually if that company does well, you then have the full reward.
Are these specifically train operators you're referring to?
So yes, it's a train operation which has a track access contract through the Office of Road and Rail, the regulator, to run a specific quantum of services. So we have two operations to date, and we're expanding to have two further operations, so we'll have four in total. The two we run to date are Hull trains between Hull and London, where we run 7 services a day, and Lumo on the East Coast Main Line between Edinburgh and London, where we're running 5 services a day.
So, so the Lumo brand, how long has that been in existence specifically?
Yeah, so the business case for Lumo came about 2015, 2016. But we didn't actually launch services until October 21. So we're just celebrating the 4th birthday. And it was the first time we launched with the Lumo brand. So the Lumo brand's sort of been building over the last 4 years. And it's really taken off.
Okay, and specifically, you're saying 3 to 4 years in operation. How many customers are using you? What are the routes that you're currently running?
Yeah, so on the Lumo on the East Coast, so it serves, I say Edinburgh to London, calling at Morpeth and Newcastle, and we're starting to see more traffic into Stevenage. So we're trying to expand our Stevenage offer to enable to get a Scotland to the southeast. But we typically see 1.4, 1.5 million customers a year, and that's growing.
Okay, and what about the Hull service? So that goes from Hull to...
Yeah, so Hull down to London, goes through the local communities of the Humberside with Brough, Howden, Selby, and then joins the East Coast Main Line at Doncaster, and then calls at Retford and Grantham. Again, a similar scale of business to Lumo on the East Coast, but we're now sort of just, like I say, probably just broken through the 1.5 million. And this year we're actually celebrating 25 years of that being in service. So that's probably a bit more mature in where it's got to with established in the market. But a real, what we're seeing is a real support for that within the local community.
Brilliant. Okay. So what makes Lumo different than to the other operators? What's the differentiation and the premise behind Lumo as a brand?
Yeah, so when we tackled this 4 years ago of the launch, we were very much going after the air market with regards to ensuring that we were segmenting the market for rail in a way that enabled potentially people who didn't normally travel by rail to access rail. So primarily we're doing that through the price point. So Lumo's USP is trying to make sure we're offering the best value fare to the customer and really ensuring that we've got customers using the service. For us, we want to make sure we're using every seat all the way along the journey of the service, and we do that by making sure we've got a price point which works for the market. And as I say, to begin with, that was very, very much focused on the air market. But that's expanded over time as we're seeing more and more people drawn to the services.
Okay, so that's an interesting concept. Actually, very similar to our model that we have with our Apart Hotel. we've gone boutique. We don't use the word luxury, but you've got one service, right? Or one class.
Yeah.
You don't have multiple classes of
absolutely.
service.
We've taken sort of this inclusive model where we believe it's right to have sort of one class travel throughout the level of service, and we sort of treat everyone equally along that. So we have 2 customer experience ambassadors, which will serve throughout the operation, who will serve food and drink at seat, and ultimately try and make sure our customers are as comfortable as possible throughout the duration of the journey.
So it's interesting you use the title of a customer experience ambassador. I spent a bit of time in the customer experience industry from a software point of view before I decided to do what I do now, and that is quite unique in today's in today's marketplace, because customer experience should be getting better. The relationship with customers through customer relationship management is obviously improving, but actually with the introduction of technology, sometimes you kind of see experience getting worse. You can't get a hold of people. I had this very experience yesterday. So how do you manage and measure customer experience then? Do you survey customers?
Absolutely. And we're really proud of the results which we get through from our customer satisfaction. We want that regular feedback loop. We want to make sure that we understand whether the customer is satisfied with what the product they're getting.
You're not running out of hot water on the train.
No, exactly. But making sure the right produce on board, and making sure that the train is cleanliness, cleanliness of the train. But I think where we've been able to recruit our customer experience ambassadors from, it's been really important, right? So when we launched in 21, as I say, the model was very much trying to make sure that we were in a position that we could compete with the air market. Was actually where the world was at that stage with the pandemic. We actually recruited a number of people coming out of the air industry, with the air industry, grounding a number of flights. It then meant actually that in the marketplace we were able to recruit a number of customer-centric
That's great.
folk who, in the air industry, it's very much looking after, making sure you're looking after that customer because of how competitive the marketplace is. And we've also seen a really good proportion of people coming in from other industries, particularly the services and hospitality. Which where it's always about dealing with the customer first,
right?
And that's really then translated in the experience on board and the service that our staff are then providing.
So, customer experience absolutely paramount to the success of Lumo.
Oh, absolutely. We live and die by our customers, and so we really want to make sure that if a customer's travelling with us, that they have that right experience, that they then want to travel again.
You've just reinstated some faith in customer service for me. Fantastic. So if we bring it a little bit closer to Stirling, we're sat in Stirling, right in the centre of Stirling, probably only at least 2 minutes walk from here to the train station. Why Stirling? London to Stirling with this Lumo service. What made Stirling?
So I think with Stirling there is when you're looking at a long distance service, you're trying to look for a market where you've got confidence that the market will work in both directions. So particularly, is there attractors there, right? And so there's always naturally a market towards London. We know that there's obviously a number of attractors there. But actually, when you look at Stirling, there's a number of attractors here, which we think will be really, a lot of the market would be really keen to understand, particularly from the south of the border. And with the nature of the operation, which will serve at a number of different locations along the West Coast main line, we believe Stirling will be a real attractor for a number of different people.
And what demographics do you think are probably going to be the biggest consumers of the service?
Well, traditionally we've seen leisure. We've predominantly seen a strong leisure market. I think particularly when we're looking at people coming north of the border. And obviously the outdoor activities on the doorstep of Stirling. But, I think where we've been in the past 6 months of the wider market, we've seen business travel pick up, and particularly business travel on Lumo services. We're actually having a cleanly, good, decent sized seat, good sized table, which is paramount for a good working environment. I'm confident we'll see business travel as well. Now, obviously, that business travel probably takes a bit longer to come through. We're confident we'll see leisure pick up quickly between the various stations, but I think the business market will be a slower build, but we're confident it will come.
Okay, and the fact that we've got a university city here as well, I guess you're probably going to get a lot of academia and students traveling.
Absolutely, and we want to work closely with the university, right? Because we believe from the experience we've had elsewhere, particularly the University of Hull is a good example, where they've been adamant that their big uplift in students is really driven by having that direct link to London. It has gives that appeal to international students, knowing that they've then got that direct connectivity. So I think it really will help the university with the admissions, but obviously it has to be the right product for them, and that's where we're hoping that our USP on price point will ensure that they're attracted to rail.
Yeah, I guess that leads to the question, do you have or are you considering any sort of loyalty programs for people, but like you find in the airline industry in terms of trying to kind of promote your service for more people to use you from a loyalty point of view? Is that something you've considered?
So we've not done it to date. I think as we expand the Lumo brand, that's certainly something we need to look at. I think where we've been to date we've not necessarily seen that because of the markets we've been serving. And we've been serving some pretty large markets which have a lot of discretional travel between Edinburgh and London. But I think as we now look on the West Coast and we've got a number of communities we're serving, which aren't necessarily of the same scale, what's going to be even more important to us is ensuring get that customer product right, so that people will be looking to do repeat travel.
Yeah, and it's actually, there's some of these places on that West Coast route that I've never even heard of. So in terms of the route itself, Stirling, London, obviously, well-known kind of destinations and locations, but some of the places on route Whifflet, I've never heard of Whifflet as an example. What makes you choose the routes that avoid the major cities like Edinburgh and Glasgow in this example? Yeah,
so I think this is trying to be unique. As we come out of Stirling, we've got Larbert, we've then got Greenfields for Cumbernauld, Whifflet for Coatbridge and Motherwell, and each of those actually is quite a large population in itself, which we believe having a direct service there will actually not only attract people to those communities, but actually there's a connect that the ability to then connect into other parts of the network. As I've sort of been talking to various folk around Scotland, what's really come across is the excitement around actually it's not just the cross-border bits which people are going to be seeing the benefit from, but just simple, Motherwell to Stirling. Motherwell to Stirling will become much easier.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Service.
Otherwise you have to go into Glasgow and out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it may look strange to be bypassing the likes of Edinburgh and Glasgow, but we believe there's enough population and something different by serving these communities.
Oh, that's great, and I guess we have a large Stirling business audience who hopefully be listening to this podcast. Certainly Forth Valley wide, which incorporates Larbert and some of those kind of those other areas. What's in it for what are the opportunities you see for local businesses getting involved in this venture? Yeah,
I think it's twofold, right? So where we've been on the East Coast with Lumo is we've really tried to differentiate our product offer on board by working with essentially local suppliers.
Okay.
And I think particularly as we talk about trying to bring tourism, more tourism to north of the border, we want to make sure that we've got the quintessentially the iconic local brands.
Yeah, you've got to have a bit of tartan in there somewhere.
Exactly. But also, as you walk around Stirling, okay, well, what's the local produce, which means which puts Stirling on the map, and we want to be able to elevate the opportunity for those businesses to be able to not only sell beyond the Forth Valley, but along our service. And I think we've done that. We've proved how that could work on the East Coast. Okay. So I think it's local produce absolutely number one.
Selling local produce on the trains.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. And I think it's also just been able to bring that direct connectivity, and so actually Stirling becomes that much more accessible. Larbert becomes that much more accessible, and not only through direct business, but actually also from the communities around that with regards to where people then decide to locate.
Okay, great. And I guess other service-related businesses like hospitality, they're naturally going to benefit by hopefully bringing more visitors to Stirling, out with the international travellers that are coming in, flying in self-drive. You're going to get that market
absolutely.
as well.
No, obviously we, as I was saying previously, we want to make sure we've got as many customers on these trains as possible. And obviously you want to have the right attractors to bring those customers to. And by attractors, it's not only the flagship amenities, but it's making sure you've then got the services with it, whether it's restaurants, whether it's bars, whether it's hotel rooms. And so I think, particularly as we look through the course of the year, recognising that tourism goes through sort of peaks and troughs, we're going to be running 360 3 days of the year, with the exception of Christmas and Boxing Day. We'll be running every day. And so I think that really gives the opportunity to re-elevate the services sector.
Just a couple of questions, just specifically relating to the rolling stock. So, any travel that's either on the road or on the rail sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap in terms of what it's doing to the environment. I hear your strategy is a little bit unique in that regard in terms of where you're going from a sustainability and renewable energy perspective. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, what we've done on the East Coast is we're running all electric trains.
Okay.
Where we are with Stirling currently is where we're going to be launching with diesel trains, but we're hoping that that's only temporary. The application, the track access agreement that we have to run services predicates that we need to be using diesel running because of the power supply constraints with the infrastructure on the West Coast Main Line. But we're hoping that those constraints are going to be overcome. Okay. But through two ways. We believe that there's government funding going in to improve the power supply. But secondly, we are now launching an application to buy new trains with battery, have electric battery traction that will enable
to service the Stirling route.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it will replace the diesel rolling stock, and the dates we're looking at is around sort of December 28 currently. But the idea would be that if there are any then subsequent constraints with electricity, then actually we've got the battery to mitigate. So we're quite excited by this. There's quite a long way for us to go before we could see this become a reality and being granted the permission to do it. But that's certainly our strategy. So whilst we may be launching with diesel rolling stock, our long-term ambition is to make sure that's an electric battery operation.
I'm sure there'll be lots of the audience are really happy to hear that. So that's fantastic. So, so just kind of wrapping up, Stuart, what does success look like in 2-3 years from now? What would you like to see Lumo, London Stirling look like?
Well, I think obviously for us, we live and die by the footfall of customers, right? So we obviously need to make sure that we're attracting customers to the services, but also really keen to see Lumo then become part of the fabric of the Forth Valley community. I think, as I mentioned, with the new trains potentially coming in December 28, I think that'd be a great time after just over 2 years after launch for us to really take it on to another level. Yeah. Because new trains will also bring additional capacity as well. So, success for us is ultimately is going to live and die by the number of customers which are using us. But we think we can bring some significant change to the area with by making things more accessible and improving the connectivity.
And can you see the service extending beyond Stirling in that kind of time frame? Or
No, absolutely. So we'll look at all options. Ultimately, we're looking long term to go with an electric battery operation, so that then potentially limits the range of how further, how far along the network you can go. But we'll certainly look at whether we can go as far as Dunblane, for example.
Okay. Yeah, we have a friend who would be very happy with that. That's brilliant. Stuart, thank you for your time. That's been a fascinating conversation, and I'm sure that we'll get you back in the spring once we've launched, and I wish you all the best. I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to Stirling in the Forth Valley, and really appreciate you making the time today to come along.
No, brilliant. Well, thank you for inviting me along, and we're really excited.
Great. Thank you again for attending the Stirling Business Podcast and listening to my conversation with our guest today. I will be back within the next week to 2 weeks with another episode where we'll have some additional exciting content from another guest.